Video games are a great way to relax and enjoy some free time, but if you're anything like me, then a large part of what makes video games so much fun for you is collecting them. Now I'm sure many people, including myself, never had the opportunity to collect these video games when they were younger because, well, they were expensive. But as I got older, it became something that I started putting a lot of time and effort into. But now after doing it for so many years, I've started to notice some issues when it came to how I collect, and I wanted to chat about that. Let's get into it. So I've been collecting for around 8 to 9 years now, and I've only started really getting into it around 3 years back. Now I'm not sure what sparked this, but I did really enjoy hunting for the games and filling out my personal collection. Yet within the past year, I've started to look back on a lot of the stuff I've acquired, and I realized how little I actually make use of the stuff I'm buying. Which sort of leads me into my first point, which is getting carried away when collecting. I have no shame in saying I was addicted to video game collecting. I would spend days browsing local marketplaces and visiting flea markets, which is fine, but I definitely went overboard. Oftentimes I'd buy video games simply because they were a good deal, and because I thought I'd eventually play them, but in reality I just ended up buying a lot of stuff I had no intention of ever using. So if I could give one strong recommendation to newer collectors, it's to slow down and purchase games that you know you will play. It's super easy to buy an expensive game and tell yourself that you're going to play it when in reality that's not the case. The best thing you can do when collecting video games is to research specific games and purchase ones you know for a fact you'll at least enjoy playing. Do not fall into the rabbit hole of buying tons of video games only to have them sit in a box for months on end. There are a lot of people who fall into this trap and they let it become an addiction. Now of course this sort of stuff varies per person, but it can still be really damaging. The reason I know this is because I've read dozens of Reddit forums on people who are addicted to video game collecting and started spending well above their financial means. But that's a little extreme, and the main takeaway I'd like to get across is to simply purchase games you will play and have fun with, not because they're rare or expensive. Okay, so the second point I want to discuss builds off the first one a little bit, and that's not following collecting trends. At the moment, I'm mainly collecting original Xbox games because I really enjoyed them as a kid and I know I'll actually play them. Many people follow the trend of going for video games that YouTubers and other collectors want. For example, at the moment, anything Nintendo related is quite expensive for the most part. And what hurts to see is that a lot of newer collectors decide to go with what's popular and buy into expensive markets like the GameCube and NES. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you like, then by all means. But I just noticed that a lot of people go after what others want. When instead of dropping $80 on a GameCube game, you could instead grab a $5 to $10 Xbox title that's just as good. So really, to each their own, but what I'm basically trying to say is that you should always go for what you like and ignore what's popular. The last thing you want is to become sucked into an expensive library of games that you end up having no interest in. And the last point I want to discuss when it comes to video game collecting is selling off your items. A lot of people hold on to parts of their collection for much longer than they should, and it's because they either don't want to take a loss financially or because they just can't bear the thought of letting certain stuff go. I'm a firm believer in keeping only what you want. A lot of people think they need 300 DS games, but in reality only about 20 to 30 of them are actually getting played. Yes, it might be difficult to sell off some games initially, but once you start doing it, well, it becomes a lot easier. Now again, some people want to keep their stuff and there isn't anything wrong with that, but I just hate seeing people finally decide to sell off a lot of their games and dump them to a reseller for 30% market value. If you have games that aren't being played, then list them for their full value on Facebook and other selling platforms, because there's nothing worse than realizing you need money financially and having to take a reduced price on your video games because you need the cash quick. So just think ahead and do what you feel is right. If you're someone who likes to store their games and keep them as a financial investment that might maybe grow, then by all means, but there's probably better things to put your money into. At the end of the day, video games are meant to be played, and it's important to enjoy them. Yes, many consider them art pieces, but the true value that comes from a video game is only unlocked once you play it. So just make the most of what you currently have. And well, that concludes the video. I just want to say a massive thank you for watching until the end because it does really mean a lot to me, and please subscribe as it does help the channel grow. And with that said, I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.